What's up, nerds? It's the Align in the Stars podcast. I'm Jordan.
I'm Matt.
And we're here to talk tonight a little about some Star Trek, a little Star Wars, and a book review that is so long overdue. Finally done. It's kind of crazy. I finished Dooku.
And how'd you like it?
Wow. So I guess the biggest thing to say is I haven't done a whole lot of audiobooks. Not recently. I think really the last time I was doing audiobooks was like in the late 90s. Like literally, like they were on tape.
Yeah.
You'd get a book and it'd be a sleeve of tapes.
And you'd rent it from the library.
Yeah, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And so this was the first audiobook. And, you know, one of the things I'd kind of mentioned before was like, I loved the voice acting that I was hearing before already. And this was like an entire production. Like I literally felt like, yeah, I'm reading a book, right?
Yeah.
I'm listening to it, but this felt like an episode of Clone Wars. It felt like Rebels. It felt like a movie, like a 6.5 hour long movie.
Exactly. And you get like that time for it to build.
Yeah. And I swear I haven't had a chance to like cross reference, but I think it was the same voice actress who does Asajj.
I think so.
I think so.
I'll post it like in the video portion.
Yeah. I hope I think so. And either way, she does a fantastic job of voicing Asajj. So we're definitely going to talk more about that as we go forward. We're going to this is going to be a Dooku episode. Like we did the Master and Apprentice episode a couple episodes ago. And we basically just talked about that the entire time. And we were kind of like, well, we could, and we probably will. Yeah. But we still kind of want to talk a little bit about like kind of what's been going on. You know, I mean, we both kind of have been on a self-imposed like Star Wars, Star Trek hiatus a little bit. I've actually randomly started watching episodes of DS9.
Nice.
Of course, Rebels is my thing. Like I was telling Matt yesterday, it's like the thing that I put on when I go to bed. If I don't have anything to watch, Rebels is just a great place to go. But yeah, DS9, I was looking for an episode to watch, and it was the season 4 premiere, The Way of the Warrior, and it was the one where Worf came in, and man, I forgot how good it was. Like Gowron. Yeah. Gowron is so good in that episode. Like when Worf walks in, like, Worf! You know, he is so over the top. It is
so high energy. And I've said before, I forget the actor's name.
Robert C. Riley.
Dude, he does the crazy eyes so
well. And what's amazing is you get that character like true. I mean, he started that role in like 89, 90. Yeah. And through 1999, you get the same portrayal of the character. Gowron felt right the entire way through. You know, so that episode was really great. And I've been kind of picking through some episodes. You know, the episode that Matt and I were talking about the other day actually was the one where Bashir and O'Brien get stuck on the planet with those Jem'Hadar, with the one who had developed the ability to create the Ketracel White for himself. Yeah. It would have been a throwaway episode. Like, I would have just scrolled over it if it didn't automatically go to the next episode, right? Fantastic episode.
Is
well
a very
written.
Good episode.
That's when I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I think it's time to actually like kind of watch it. So DS9's kind of picking up a little bit. I am going to be committed to doing Enterprise with Matt. But beyond that, I've really been kind of focusing on trying to make sure I got through Dooku as I promised. You know, and then on the other side of it too is just trying to you know, explore getting moved. Like we're sitting in Matt's new dining room right now, and hopefully I'll be doing the same thing here soon too. And so yeah, it's kind of where I've been at. For you.
I mean, yes, I mean, most of my attention has been in the move, getting so many video game consoles hooked up.
It's awesome.
Like shelving and just moving all the stuff is crazy. I know that the next move will be easier. Yeah. Because
you're not having to build everything.
I don't have to build everything. I'll have the furniture. My friends kept going like, hey, if you want to enlist our help, we can. And just my move was so gradual over time that it didn't make any sense. But when it comes to move again, I'll have a day to move in.
Yep.
And it'll be like that like set of days.
And then you're done.
And then that's it. So that's a time where I'm like, okay, I will probably enlist help on that.
Right, exactly.
But in terms of Star Wars and Star Trek, I actually did start The Force Awakens.
Nice.
While I was packing things up. That only lasted up to Finn drinking in the water hole.
Nice. Okay.
before I'm like, okay, I'm pausing too much. I'm moving too much. I need to stop. But I do intend on sitting down once I have a couch built.
Right.
Watching the sequel trilogy.
Nice.
Again, as well as finishing my casual go through of Picard again.
Yeah. That's an easy one. Like right now it's only 10 episodes, so it's not hard.
And I already went past the 7 of 9 like
Stardust City Rag. Yeah, you're about to come up on the one with Hugh and so you're about to come up on Nepenthe then with Riker and Troy.
Almost.
Yeah, so you're in the episode right. So you're probably episode 6 right now.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, because Stardust City Rag is episode 5.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's a fantastic episode.
It is so good.
Oh yeah.
Also, I think I've said this already. I might have, but seeing 7 of 9 in Picard now after having watched Voyager, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like there's like the fact that
I still can't like to interrupt him real quick. I sent him on a path like before watching Picard, you need to watch these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was nothing Voyager in there at all. Like,
I mean, it's hard to pick out.
Well, you'd have to understand context for like if I were to tell you go watch Unimatrix Zero.
Yeah, or like the Icheb episode where he gives his cortical node to Seven.
It's such a random, odd episode. Right. You wouldn't have known that, but then knowing what, like, I forgot about that where he gave her his cortical node to her. And when they're looking for his cortical node and she's like, where is it?
It's got to be in here somewhere.
It's got to be
not.
It's not.
It's because he gave his node to Seven.
And it's heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
That moment is heart-wrenching, and I'm glad that you got to enjoy that because 7 of 9, I think, in all honesty, was probably her story, her and Janeway. Mm-hmm. I think were the best part of
it. Was a lot of Seven's character development was her figuring out and becoming comfortable with humanity.
Yeah, it was a very Data-esque story, but done in the context of I have these emotions.
Right. What do I do with them?
Do
I want them? Like,
or
what's their purpose?
What can I shut down?
Exactly.
You know, and you see at the end of that episode, she's human now. Mm-hmm. She's had 20 odd years to hate and be pissed off and so on and so forth, or at least 15 years.
Being a ranger.
Being a ranger, exactly, you know, and so that moment, you know, like even rung true for me on the other end, like, oh yeah, I forgot about the cortical node, and like while she was digging, and it was just like, ugh. So yeah.
I also did finish Light of the Jedi.
Nice. That's next for me, by the way.
Again, that is so interesting. It is so busy. There's a lot of names, but they come up in other ones. Like there's references to Into the Dark, the second book a month before that was released.
Nice. Okay.
And then also the junior novel, it was like these characters came back from their own encounter with
that's cool.
The Nihil. And just reading it again, again drawing the parallels again, recording, screen capturing the audio so that I can listen back to it before we do that podcast episode.
I can't wait.
I'm really glad that like Dooku was the book that you went into, because that was one of the full cast ones, and that just like those just blow you away. I'm still like kind of like wanting to go back and listen to it again, although
I will say that there was some repetitive portions of it. And once again, we'll talk about it here in just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, just the quality of that was insane. So I'm really looking forward to getting Light of the Jedi. I own it. It's I think that's going to start on Tuesday when I get back to work this week coming up. So yeah.
Aside from that, I think
there's a show that you're watching.
There is a show that I'm watching. It is Breaking Bad.
For the first time.
It
makes sense. Now, real quick, there is a very large age gap between Matt and I. And so I understand, like, when Breaking Bad came out, you were too young for
I was too young.
Yeah, I mean,
it was finishing up by the time I was like graduating high school.
Exactly, yeah. And so context was kind of tough back then.
Right.
But you're worldly enough nowadays, and like we're doing prep yesterday and it was busy as hell. And it's the end of season 2 on Breaking Bad, and I'm just like, oh yes. The whole overdose thing, and then the Star Trek reference that I'm pulling from this is John Delancey, and his character in that show is so good.
And then you have Gus, who
Gus Fring. Gus is making his appearances at the beginning, like right at the end of season 2 there, which is now a great Mandalorian connection. And you really so what you know about him is Moff Gideon.
So here's
barely scratches the surface of how much of a badass he is in that show.
Here's the thing, and I want to wait until the podcast, about sci-fi to talk about this very grounded earthly show.
Right, exactly.
Because I just wanted to record your reaction to this. I already know what happens to Gus.
Do you?
Yeah.
It's not surprising. It's very much pop culture.
It's pop culture.
Yeah.
It's also, I've seen several memes of that.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
so I'm aware of it. I'm like, I don't know when it happens.
That still doesn't tell you the story, man.
But exactly, I mean, especially when the person Gus is supposed to be talking to is the pop cat.
Yep.
I mean, So I have no idea what's going on.
What happened to you, where that? So when I was reading Harry Potter for the first time, I'm like, I hadn't watched the movies, I hadn't read any of the books yet, and I'm early 30s at this point, I'm like, whatever. And so I'm looking up on the phone, on my phone, I'm Googling what the characters look like in the movies, and I'm looking up Snape, and I believe, in my mind, it was, oh God, why can't I think of his name? Alan Rickman.
Uh-huh.
Right? I figured it was him, but I wasn't sure. And so I type in Snape, and then Google autocorrects kills Dumbledore. I'm 15 pages into a Sorcerer's Stone, finding out something that drops at the end of book 6.
7.
Or book 7, excuse me.
Actually, no, it was
at the end of 6.
6. It was 6,
because 7 was split into 2 books, right? And so, or 2 movies, one book.
Yeah, one book. Yeah.
But so yeah, it was immediately spoiled, but actually, for all the spoilers though, that wasn't a bad spoiler because it just further reinforced that when Snape turned out to be the good guy. Oh,
yeah.
That was so tasty for me because I spent the entire time, for context, I read not Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, beginning to end in less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So trust me, that finding out was maybe a week, but right. Still, it was just it was very tasty for me. So very much similar sort of spoiler for me, but yeah,
I can't wait to see more of Gus. Dude, I have a feeling he's going to be my favorite character because
he absolutely. Well, there's Gus, and then you will also meet Mike.
Right.
Mike is going to be possibly one of your favorite characters as well, just because he's a no nonsense, no bullshit kind of guy, and yeah, it's so good. Bill Burr also plays a fantastic character. So there's another Star Wars reference in there. Yeah. So when you get to Bill Burr and his character, it is so fantastic. You'll know him immediately with the bright red hair and the Boston accent. It's insane. So,
yeah. Dude, I think the only other one is I may pick up watching Resident Alien.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Before I start Enterprise.
Yeah.
Because Peacock Premium has that, and that gets me around the Hulu extra payments. So I may actually start that guy before.
Yeah, there's only a few episodes, so you wouldn't have to go too deep into that one, which is But I hear good things about it. I really do.
I mean,
it's Alan Tudyk. You can't go wrong.
And then obviously another Star Wars.
Yeah, and then I mean Firefly.
Yeah,
you know, I actually the first time I ever saw Alan Tudyk was in the movie Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. And it also had the dude who played King Baratheon in Game of Thrones.
Okay, yeah.
The three of them, they played the whole story with Knight's Tale was there were three like squires to this old burnt out knight, and they were jousting. And the knight dies and they're starving. They have no food, no nothing. They have no way of like surviving. And so one of the squires puts on the knight's armor and goes and wins, and it becomes the thing. And Alan Tudyk in that is glorious. He is glorious. I guess there's a Star Wars reference in there, and also an MCU reference with the guy who played Vision. Paul Bettany.
Yes.
He plays Geoffrey Chaucer in A Knight's Tale.
Okay.
And like one of the greatest characters in any movie. Like if you haven't seen A Knight's Tale, I have not seen it. You should.
That's what I'm picking up.
Okay, so A Knight's Tale also as well is a very interesting movie because it takes place in medieval times, but it has a modern soundtrack.
Cool.
So like it opens up with "We Will Rock You," and
nice.
You have these people in stands watching jousting, doing the doom 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 doom. So it is it's fantastic. Great. Yeah. So it's amazing, like all these little like spinning references we can make now. Like that's what's cool about Star Wars and Star Trek is like the actors. You want to be in Star Wars. You want to be in Star Trek. You want to be part of that universe in some way or another. And
that what we're doing now spins off to a game that one of the people I'm in one of my classes from college, he said that he had the most fun playing a game called Dad Movie Reviews.
Never heard of it.
And this is one that he made up with his friends at like 2 a.m. when they were drunk, where you describe the entire plot of a movie, but you only describe the characters by other roles that they've played.
Oh, interesting. Dude, drunk?
Yeah.
Oh no.
No, I mean they created it when they were drunk.
Oh, got it.
And they were like, no, actually, this is a funny idea.
That's a great idea. I'm stealing that.
Yeah.
Straight up, I'm stealing that.
That would be like what we're doing.
That's literally what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
In essence. Ooh, that'd be a good episode.
That'd be a really fun episode to just
like
go
6 degrees of separation with Star Wars and Star Trek. Oh, live on air episode idea. Well, cool. I think real quick with some news. Obviously you guys should know the Bad Batch has been announced to be dropping on the 4th. If you guys haven't seen the trailer, holy shit.
We should briefly talk about it. Like it's hard to, and because it's short. I mean, we won't do like a trailer breakdown, but
yeah,
I mean, standout things from that.
Yeah, I would say real quick, I want to know who's the girl's name. Is it Omega?
It's Omega.
Omega.
Yeah.
Okay, who is she?
I think she's the last clone.
I think she is the very last clone too, which is very interesting to make it a female.
Yeah.
Right. And I wonder if there are more female clones.
I'm wondering if this is like the end cap to the fact that Boba Fett was a natural,
unaltered,
and that was at the beginning,
right?
And that Omega is at the end,
Alpha and the Omega,
yeah.
And I think that's very interesting. Yeah, one of the things that I'm really taking away from is like we got a pretty clear understanding. Like one of the things we talked about when we first found out about Bad Batch on a podcast was like, what's the story going to be? Like, how is it going to play out? We know.
Yeah,
it's they. I think what's his face? What's his
Tarkin?
name? No, not Tarkin. Okay. I think he gets sold out by one of the clones. The one with the glasses. I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head. I'm kind of
Deadshot, Deadeye.
I think it's Deadeye or Deadshot or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I get the sense that he is sold out and he sells out the rest of the Bad Batch. And
I mean, you don't really see. I mean, with the short trailer, like he's not in a lot of them.
He's not in a lot of them. But it seems like it's going to be the story of how the clones were put down, in essence. And one of the things that, you know, like we don't theorize too much here, but one of the things that I'm getting the sense of is that Palpatine is going to be throwing all of his clones at these guys to try to kill them, and they're the ones who take out the clones.
It could be.
I mean, because
it seems like a Palpatine thing to do is to throw clones into dire situations just for them to be killed.
Exactly.
Because they're not needed anymore.
Exactly. Like, and what better way of killing clones but with clones?
I mean, we saw that with something T. Paul. The four-armed.
Oh goodness. Jedi Master starts with a P. Ponkrell.
Okay.
Ponkrell, yeah, look at that. Fucking
There's
dope.
no T in there, but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. You absolutely saw that with that. And I was actually thinking about that episode just recently. That was executed Order 66. We had already seen Order 66 dropped once before when the clones killed Ponkrell.
That was a soft launch.
It was definitely a soft launch. I mean, but they executed their orders and did it really well.
Yeah, it wasn't a direct order.
No, it was not. But Ponkrell was told by Sidious through Palpatine, right, to go in and just throw these clones wave after wave after wave at this problem that was not going to get solved. I see that being much the case. I'm curious to see what sort of... I think Tarkin's going to be the main bad guy.
I think so.
I'm not going to be surprised if we see a lot of Vader in this.
It's possible.
Not a lot. I think we might get the same sort of Vader Rebels treatment.
Yeah.
A couple episodes here and there.
I'd say one or two. We could probably do with keeping Vader out of this because it's the Bad Batch. It should be focused on, you know, how they deal with the situation and being brothers,
right?
Despite being, you know, kind of outcast, brothers turning on brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, Rex shows up.
I know. That was amazing.
Also, I mean, with dead shot, target
dude,
whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine because we have the sniper lady from
Fennec Shand.
Yeah, Fennec Shand.
Yeah.
Who looks like gonna be like enemy at beginning and then turn ally.
Yeah, you know, I kind of get the sense, like, I mean, you only see her for a half second, but what we do know about Fennec Shand now, right, at least in Mandalorian, which that's, you know, 25 years or no. Matter of fact, you know, it's after episode 6. And the end of
episode 3.
Mandalorian takes place at the end of episode 6.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
So we're about 25 years from so about 25 years.
Yeah.
So we know what she is now, right? She was still an assassin. She was still doing her thing. I definitely am sort of getting like a sort of like Hondo Anaka sort of feel like off of that character where you're going to be seeing her either often or she's in an episode as like a, hey, look at what's here. But everything that we've seen so far when it comes to Bad Batch She's been in all of it,
Mhm.
and so which it makes me excited. That I think that's a great character. More of her is better.
Yeah.
I think more female characters in Star Wars is good. Yeah. She could have kind of like that Hondo Anaka sort of role, you know, where like you're not quite sure if she's actually going to be helping or not.
Right.
But who knows?
Who knows?
I mean,
We'll see.
We'll see. But
I'm one thing's for sure. I'm excited to see what comes from this.
The animation, out of control.
Like
out of control.
We're like at par or above the last season of Clone Wars,
which I didn't think was possible.
Right.
Like, I mean,
the set pieces are really cool.
Yeah, and I love the fact that they went back to the Clone Wars era, like styling.
Yeah.
It's the same art style.
Yeah.
And like one thing I really liked about Rebels was the softening of the lines, right? And that's really what it comes down to. Is the art style was much more soft. Like Yoda is very round and
yeah. I think the only
tubular.
the only two characters that suffered from that were Yoda and Anakin.
Yeah,
I didn't really like.
I didn't like Anakin's.
I didn't like.
Anakin though, when he was in in the Vader suit,
right.
You know, when you see part of his face, you see those cuts and those lines. They did really good with that, but. I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
In the scene with Ahsoka and
the hologram.
And the hologram, it definitely doesn't look right. And so I just kind of much preferred the art style of Clone Wars. But then again, I do believe that Rebels is a better show.
Yeah.
But once again, like it's semantics at this point. But I do really enjoy the fact that the art style is taken on the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And it stepped way the fuck up. It is insane. Like,
I mean,
it's insane.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Like, we're literally 1 month.
Yeah. Wait.
Well, month from tomorrow on May 4th. Is it a month? Yeah, it's a month from tomorrow.
Yeah. Dude.
We're going to have new Star Wars. Like we said a while back, like we're going to be talking about things until September, December when new things are dropping. And no, we're going to be here soon having episodes dedicated to just reviewing an episode.
Yeah.
And it's going to be awesome because we're really actually looking forward to doing that. Like we kind of got a little late to the party, like just at the end of Discovery and just at the end of Mando, so we're really excited about doing that.
Where a lot of it was like front loaded on the back end.
That's what she said.
Maybe.
I think so.
How would one do that?
I don't know. We did it though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, also we have the next, and staying with Star Wars news, the second book in Thrawn Ascendancy is coming out.
Absolutely.
Thrawn Ascendancy, the greater good.
Yeah.
I almost did that line from the movie.
Yeah. And I'm actually really far behind on the Thrawn books. I've read the first two. I haven't finished the first trilogy, and then I'm a book behind on the Ascendancy stuff. So yeah, I think after, like, I have to do Light of the Jedi, and then I have to do the follow-up on it. Like, I have to get caught up on the High Republic, and then as soon as that's done, I think I'm going to go into Thrawn Treason, and then go into Ascendancy.
Thrawn Treason is good.
It's what I hear. Like, I really liked the second Thrawn book.
It bounces a bit.
It bounces a bit, and the whole...
I think you get
I much preferred I didn't like the Vader aspect of the story because Vader just came across as really condescending.
Really? Because I was the opposite on that.
Really?
I like the Vader parts and the Anakin. Because you have Anakin who is. Anakin in the book reminded me of like a weird mixture of Clone Wars Anakin and
movie Anakin,
Episode 2 Anakin.
Yeah,
where he was like oddly whiny, like way too whiny.
That's what I really liked about it. It felt real.
Like it felt, but like Vader is like, you have the quiet, you have the calm, you have the history, the weight of the history of them working together, and the weight of what happened. Yeah, working together, and then you have like one of the things that sticks out is the passive and under like 5 layers of admiration that Vader has for Thrawn, because of what they did
before, and he can't say anything, even though Thrawn just is like, I know who you are.
He's like, he knows, But look, I mean,
but he also respects Vader enough
and
to
doesn't not say anything because
so dope.
Look, I mean, I showed you a comic panel of what happens when you out Vader.
Yeah.
You don't out Vader.
You don't out Vader. He will Vader you.
Yeah, you don't bring up who he was. That is a quick way to separating your halves.
Yes. Very much so. So yeah, that is. I'm glad you brought that up because I almost forgot about bringing that. Like we talked briefly about like what we're going to talk about, and we used to write this stuff down, and now it's just like, all right, we're going to do this. Okay, we're good. Because it's so much easier this way.
Free form,
exactly. So
and then I guess in Star Trek news, we have Celebration coming up, which when this comes out will already have happened.
Yes, and so that we're recording on April 3rd.
Yes.
And First Contact Day is on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys don't know, First Contact Day in Star Trek was April 5th. I thought it was the 23rd. Bad Star Trek fan. April 5th, 2063 is when the Vulcans made first contact with humans on Earth, and that came from Star Trek First Contact of all movies.
Please, let's get to that date, please.
Yeah, I know. That'd be so awesome. But so what's happening in the Star Trek world, though, is they're releasing on StarTrek.com, starting, I believe, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be way past all y'all, so it doesn't matter. But what they're doing is they're going to be releasing all of the First Contact episodes that have happened across some of the episodes. Not all of them. There are quite a few. But some of the best ones. And then they're going to have some panels. And then just going to continue on with that. But it's going to be kind of like the beginning. I think I wouldn't be surprised if every April 5th is when we start running into, Star Trek news being released and stuff like that. Because obviously now all 4 shows are in full production right now. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some clips dropped of some early stuff that we see. Like they're already starting to talk some Discovery Season 4 storyline and stuff like that.
I think it's fair to say that First Contact Day is Star Trek's celebration or May the 4th.
Yeah,
where eventually that's going to be something that happens on a basis.
I hope that every April 5th I'm thinking about Star Trek.
Yeah,
I mean, the First Contact Day in reality, it's only 42 years away.
Yeah.
So I should hopefully be around for that. I hope. So I guess it's time to talk some Dooku.
It's time to talk about Dooku.
Finally.
DUKOO.
That's right.
What did you think of? Let's start with Dooku himself.
Very interesting.
That's probably the biggest hole we could jump into. But
yeah, to be honest, I have a greater respect and understanding for Dooku.
Same, yeah.
I think that next time I go and watch the Clone Wars, like the cartoon, the movie, I'm gonna have much more profound understanding of his character. It makes so much sense. I was expecting to see the full fall to the dark side, right? You don't see that.
Like a big.
I was expecting to see the moment where Sidious comes in and says, "Hey, you're Darth Tyrannus now."
You were expecting an Anakin moment.
I was expecting that moment. No, what you got was every reason for, and all of them were justified.
Yeah,
every single one of them.
That's the thing is after I read Dooku, I went to watch episode 2.
I should do that.
And I went, my dude has a point. Dude has a point.
Well, and once again, you look at the Trade Federation and the CIS, they weren't wrong.
No, they weren't.
At all. And it was the Republic who was in the wrong. But no one knew that, right? Yeah. It's all through, it becomes the Empire and stuff like that. But my perspective on Dooku is so different these days. He's quickly become one of my favorite characters.
And I was so excited when you asked me that question on who had the bigger impact.
Yeah.
In the Sith Lord, and you talk about how much you love Dooku.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude,
You have no idea.
You have no idea what you're about to read.
An incredibly complex character, reminds me a lot of Anakin. The confidence. I would consider him to be an Anakin style. Like, you could say that one of the most powerful Jedi that ever lived.
Yeah.
Just in his ability to the ease of using the Force for him was never an issue.
No.
You know, like, it was never an issue, and it was always this foregone conclusion that he was going to become a master and on the council, and he jumped through all of those hoops and still wanted more.
And not only that, but it was also expectations put on him by the council and by himself. But also, like, everyone's like, this is your path.
Yeah.
Like, this is obvious. You're so gifted. You're so talented. This is where your future lies.
Right.
And ultimately, he does.
Yeah.
But he takes a turn.
But for one trip, what was Yoda thinking? What were they thinking sending him back to Sereno? What were they thinking?
Yeah.
What, in all honesty, was the Jedi Council thinking?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Anakin ever once went with Obi-Wan back to Tatooine.
Not with Obi-Wan.
With Obi-Wan.
Not
until he went back with Padme.
Yeah.
Right? So
Vader says that, like, it's the one place that he would never go back to.
Yeah. I hate sand.
I mean,
it's everywhere. It's
more than that, but coarse, like, after the death of his mother, he never goes back to Tatooine.
Never steps foot.
Until his search for Luke happens and Boba Fett comes back going, hey, last name Skywalker. And then at that point, he goes back to Tatooine.
Right. Yeah. I that's from a comic.
Yeah.
And I have not read that comic yet, but I do know loosely of that story. Yeah. Once again, it's such an interesting, like...
What was the council thinking?
What was the council thinking? What were they doing? So I asked a couple episodes ago, you know, are we going to see in that moment in the High Republic when the Jedi lose their way? And I think we do see that in the High Republic, because by this point, you know, which is about 40 years. I mean, Dooku is in his 80s by the time that the movies roll around, by episode 5. You know, he's in his 80s. Like, he is an old man, right?
You mean episode
2? Episode 2, excuse me. Wow, that was
he's definitely in the ground by that point.
Yeah, with his head somewhere else. But I mean,
the fact that they knew who his father was, and now maybe not his siblings. Dooku, I think, falls between the older brother and the sister.
Jenza, yeah. So, by the way, if I hate the name Jenza.
Why?
I hate because the way he says it, and he says it constantly. Jenza.
Okay.
I can't stand that name now. Like, that name is ruined. Ramil. So Ramil, Dooku, Jenza.
Yeah.
And
I just think, like, as the viewer, as the reader, as the listener, we know about family bonds.
Yeah.
And what effect that has.
Yeah.
You put someone in there you essentially take a prince from a kingdom and return them back and have them and expect them not to find out.
Right. It really is. It challenges my, like, I was just, the whole time I'm in that scene, I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Because in the end, had they not done that, Dooku would have been Grandmaster, and would have been Grandmaster at the time of Yoda. You know, like, Yoda would have had to have abdicated to him eventually at some point, because I see that Dooku, even in his dark side, was never truly dark. You never saw the yellow eyes. You never saw any of that. For him, I think the reason he joined the Sith was more of a means to an end, to once again save his planet, keep his people safe, keep them fed, keep them... And
here's my thought, and I'm going to go back to what you said about seeing the fall of the High Republic.
That's where I was going, and I forgot.
My thought is that the fall for the High Republic is going to be much more like Dooku's, where it is gradual over steps, mistakes that are made,
and then concessions made
that are, given up, to protection,
right?
Where they lean in maybe too much to the protection element or something,
right?
Because it strikes me as you take where the High Republic is now and take it where you are in Dooku, and they're already making the mistakes and lapses in judgment that you see in the prequels.
Yeah.
And the thing that I want to know, and I'm wondering if this is ever answered, is Yoda should know better.
I said it to you mid-book. Yoda's a bad guy sometimes. And in this book, Yoda is very much Yoda. He's 100% Yoda, but there's something. Like, he sent Dooku. He sent him, and then he keeps...
I think that Yoda is starting to get complacent.
Yeah.
That he's lived too long, and he's making mistakes that he shouldn't be making.
Well, and you see Yoda realize that too when Luke comes across him in Dagobah, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, you get the Obi-Wan spent his time in isolation watching over Luke, and meanwhile Yoda spends his time contemplating, right?
And also hoping that it's gonna be Leia, not Luke.
Right, which is very interesting, actually.
Which
is very interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah. But one of the things that I kind of took from it too is like, in that same sort of like Yoda, I don't want to say he's a bad guy, but
he makes messes for himself.
And he's made a mess of the council.
And I don't even know if he's fully aware of it.
It's the hubris. Mm-hmm. Hubris is hubris, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hubris is a mess where you can't see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And so, like, it's interesting seeing it in that state, and you see, like, Dooku as he's going along start questioning things. I said to you, like, Master Kastana, Lynn Kastana or whatever, Kastana.
Yeah.
Kastana.
I
would argue is one of the most important characters in Star Wars, period.
Very much so.
And none of you guys know her name. Lynn Kastana. Mm-hmm. She was Sifo Dyas's master. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I found really interesting about this was Sifo Dyas, like, we were introduced to him in Attack of the Clones. Mm-hmm. And, I found it odd that Obi-Wan didn't know who Sifo Dyas was, right? And it's like, well, how long, right? And it's obviously been a long time. But in the book, Sifo has visions of exactly what's happening. Mm-hmm. And Kastana herself she's not like suffering from visions, mm-hmm. but she sees the writing on the wall.
Yes.
She sees the Sith coming. Mm-hmm. She sees something is happening, and she is looking. She is trying to find everything.
She's being active.
She is being active and is being, like, shunned mm-hmm. by the Jedi Council, right?
Don't
do that. Yeah. Stop doing that. It's cute. Stop doing that. Meanwhile, Sifo Dyas is having these visions that are getting crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier, to the point where, like, even Dooku was able to share in those visions with him during that, the Moss scene. Oh, so good. The Force lightning, how he just, I can imagine him, like, all Jesus posed, like floating midair and just lightning crackling from his toes and from his fingers. I bet you that would be such a dope scene to see, like, in actual live action. Like, I would argue that Dooku should be a miniseries or a movie or something. Like
I think that there's a lot that you could do.
Yeah,
and you could pull like half of that from the book.
We need more Dooku.
Yeah,
like, and that's the thing. Like, it's just, but Lean Castana is one of the most important characters because she quite literally saw the writing on the wall and was basically not able to do a damn thing about it. And
like the grace that she got from the council was being able to do what she wanted,
right?
Because she was a master,
right? You know, I mean, I love that the first lightsaber battle with her and Dooku, like when he was still a Padawan, you know, and it was just like, oh,
he's convinced that
so
she was
convinced, yeah, and like her. Like, I thought it was the same voice actress who did Asajj as well, because their voices are very similar. But, yeah, her character was just so well thought out, well written. I thought Sifo Dyas was also very well written, although he wasn't given enough play. I mean, it's not Dyas, right? We're not reading the Sifo Dyas book, right? But I just don't think he got enough play. Like, he is such an important character in Star Wars.
Yeah, I think what we got like the important stuff from what we wanted with Sifo Dyas,
right? And nothing more.
We only saw like that corrupted Force vision in Clone Wars of Sifo Dyas,
right?
So we only ever had like that, if you're excluding Legends, to go off of. So in the book, we learned that one, as a Padawan, he was a troublemaker.
Yes, I love that.
Which I
love
so
that.
Good,
so amazing.
And also you see him struggle with that. It wasn't just like I have a vision, I'm gonna go do this on my own. It was something
I have
that
visions
progressively
and
got
visions.
worse as time went on.
Exactly. You know, and they also didn't great storytelling in the sense that, like, once again, we didn't see him we didn't see Dooku make the switch to becoming Darth Tyrannus. We didn't see Sifo go to the Kaminoans and say, hey, create these clones, right? They just did a really good job of implying it.
Yeah.
The thing that I really enjoyed about the story was that it felt very unique and independent. I didn't feel like there were too many like Phantom Menace tie-ins. There wasn't it felt very much like its own story, and the fact that it was on Sereno and you got to kind of like to know that his name is actually Count Dooku Sereno, like, is awesome. It's not just, you know, Dooku. It's Dooku Sereno.
What's funny
is the house name is the.
You just reminded me that D is, I think it's French for of or from.
Oh yeah.
So you would, like, using our vocabulary, you would be correct in counting in calling Dooku
de Sereno. Yeah, that's interesting.
Which, I mean,
that's
just kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. It felt, this story felt like very unique and independent. The characters, like, Yoda is the only character you really kind of feel like you'd reference. The voice actor for Yoda was fantastic. Like, I mean, the acting in the story, like, usually with like books on tape, that's, you know, they're reading just line for line. There's none of that. It literally is. It's literally being played out. It's a production, and but yeah, going back to Lean Castana, you know, it's just interesting how, you know, there was Jedi out there that were seeing it coming, and they just don't do anything. It blows my mind. Like, she is right on the head, like, on it.
Yeah.
She's on it. She knows exactly what's going on. She just can't prove anything. And, you know.
Yeah. Like,
it's, yeah.
I am forgetting the guy's name. But essentially the bully to
the other Padawan that was in there. Oh God, I can't think of his name right now. He had that part. He was the gambler, right? He was the one that he was
also a gambler.
They wound up busting for gambling. Yeah.
but also that he was the son of one of the council members.
That's right.
That she would go off on a mission and then come back with a child.
With a child.
Strong in the Force.
Very interesting. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, that the Jedi hubris.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
like, I love, okay, so Rael Averross, which was Dooku's first apprentice before Qui-Gon. I never would have thought that he would be from Georgia.
Yeah.
Very southern drawl. Loved it. I love the line where he's like, that Master Castana, that's a fine looking woman right there. And I'm just like, huh.
Yeah.
Hey, and what's interesting is in the last couple of weeks that Star Wars has made it pretty clear that Jedi they're not abstinent. They just can't have attachments. Yeah.
And see, no, it's interesting you say that. Where have you gathered that?
Off of, where did I gather that? It was probably on Facebook. So never mind.
There's,
damn it.
Well, I mean, they did do like
I know that's the High Republic has gone into that a little bit.
They've done these like High Republic spots on social media.
Okay.
Where they've like, this is this character, and talk about actually, I may have actually told you. I may actually have told you on the fact that in the High Republic that Padawans
it was you that told me that. Yeah.
Aren't discouraged from
dating,
having emotions with each other.
Yeah, that's right.
And I mean, I think that's where you got that from.
I think so too. Yeah, now that I think about it, it's kind of interesting. So yeah, I mean, I love the fact that like you never really, outside of Anakin, I mean, like literally blatantly drooling over Padme.
Yeah.
Like even Luke when he's kissing his sister is not like super into it, which is great. I really appreciate that about him.
Sticks to his guns.
Yeah. Gross, dude. But Averross, like how he's like, oh, she's a fine looking woman, and so I mean, it's interesting, like her character.
I mean, again, so much of it is about Dooku, about him like pointing out the hypocrisy of the Jedi Order.
Yeah,
and which is so fascinating.
Especially when he's on the council and he's calling them out on their shit.
Yeah,
and they can't do anything about it.
And I can't wait for you to get to the High Republic.
No, I can't wait either.
There's
Tuesday.
It's so awesome that Dooku is so standalone. It feels like it's its own thing.
Yeah.
Where it moves things along, but doesn't get to the key points that you might think of that character.
You would assume that you're gonna catch all the familiar tropes that Dooku would be.
The
part
only
of.
connection is with Qui-Gon talking about him studying the prophecies, and the fact that Dooku has come around again to like officially like accept and let him do the research into the prophecies, which ties into Master and Apprentice.
Right.
When they initially were, then he wanted them to stop and found Qui-Gon still doing it, got mad at him, and then realized that he was at fault.
And then which Obi-Wan, when he's doing the same thing, it turns into and I guess the other connection would be Ventress. Yeah, right. Ventress. I mean, Ventress is the one who narrates the story, and it's done in such an interesting way. It's such a clever storytelling way. She's reviewing his journal, his messages between Jenza and him, and it's just a really cool way. Like, it's narrated so well, the voice in her head. So I went back and put my headphones on and listened to some of the dialogue with her former master. And it's in that, it's like that 3D audio where it's just swimming around your head. And real quick, on a gaming note, my roommate has a PS5 and he has the PS5 headset. That's what it's like all the time. Dude, you're wearing a headset and you hear someone coming from back behind you and you hear them coming from back behind you. It's dope. But yeah, like it was really interesting that talk, that conversation that she's having with her master, that dark side vision that she has right at the very end of the book when she's making her choice whether or not to go to the dark side, right? Because you see conflict. I really need to read her book with what's his face?
Quinlan Voss.
Quinlan Voss. Yeah, I'm surprised I hadn't read that book. And you know, I know with her character, like she was a Padawan, but not in the strictest sense of the word. She was with a rogue Jedi, right? And so I'm curious because you get the sense from her that she really wanted to experience what it was like to be an actual Padawan, and she was very much vicariously living through Dooku in those moments. And you hear her excitement when she's reading certain passages, and you hear her kind of dreading coming up on certain things. And
I mean,
it's so
to your benefit, she skipped a lot of things about Jensa. She did that whole like chapter like skipping.
No. I can't, like, it's like the character Jensa was great. I couldn't stand the way he said Jensa. Just it was the way he said her name.
I mean, he also like at the end, when Dooku shows up and like it's like
that scene.
Save the Dooku. You start getting the Dooku effect for his name with the Jensa.
Yeah.
But that part.
Dude, okay, so the ending, like, we're not going to try to spoil too much here.
No.
But the ending of the book, I'm not going to spoil what actually happens, but that scene is and I've been waiting to talk about this. That scene at the very end of the book, I think is like one of the best that Star Wars has to offer. Specifically when it comes to that character, and I think it was in that moment that he makes the full turn to the dark side. I don't think that he was fully committed up until that point. It's just the sense that I get.
I think that even more so, I think that was his like a peak of him,
right?
Where like he has like peaks of dark side, but he doesn't ever like he
doesn't live there.
It's like, okay, here's a better one where like he's at the same level the entire time. He just adjusts the appropriateness of like where it is because he's a politician.
Right, exactly. Well, it's almost like in Knights of the Old Republic and that light side, dark side scale that you get. He just happens to have the ability to debuff himself for a minute or two and then come back. Right. And I think in that moment was the final time. You know, and that scene, like, I really recommend, like, I always say read a book, listen to a book, like, seriously, listen to this book. That scene is so well acted, so well done. It was a culmination of this entire story, and it's the culmination of Jensa's story. It's the culmination of Dooku's story. It's the culmination of Asajj's story, her former master's story, who's in her head. You know, it's all of these things, and it's such an interesting way of writing a climax to a book.
Yeah, you also get the beginning of Asajj.
You get the beginning of Asajj, and you also get the sense that you're stepping right mid Clone Wars. Right? You're like while this is happening, like you're right there. And the storytelling on it was so just. I'd never heard of Kevin Scott. Like he'd not written Star Trek or Star Wars or Star Trek books. The dude's a hell of a writer. I'm kind of blown away. Like Stephen Fry, who's done all of the like The Last Jedi, specifically The Last Jedi novelization. Very similar sort of writing, the kind of feel that I got for the writing out of that one. If y'all haven't read The Last Jedi novelization, you should. It actually does a lot to help with Luke's perspective on things, specifically in the moment where he's force projecting himself across to Crate. And it's a really interesting like inner monologue that he's having while he's battling Kylo on the surface of Crate. It's pretty dope. So if you haven't read that one, but similar sort of like feeling out of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, interesting.
I'm looking at Kevin Scott's thing right now.
His bookography or whatever it is.
Yeah. He's in, I don't know, in charge or written, but he's written in the High Republic comics.
Oh, has he?
Obviously, Dooku Jedi Lost as audio drama. Also, an upcoming book, High Republic Tempest Runner.
Ooh.
As well as 2 other novels, The Great Jedi Rescue and The Rising Storm, all of which are, I think, upcoming.
Wow.
But he's done actually a lot of Star Wars writing.
Has he really?
Yeah.
I've just never read it.
He's done. Oh, dude. Okay, real quick. He did the Star Wars Adventures, which is the younger kids comic. He did Tales from Vader's Castle.
Oh, okay.
Which is like 3 issues of like horror.
Interesting.
And is like, that's one of the things that stands out in the Adventures comic line is the Vader Castle.
Well, and if he's
trilogy.
if he's writing more, sign me up.
Dude,
sign me up. Like Timothy's on him, Christine Golden, what's her face? The other chick, Claudia Gray, E.K. Johnston, like some of the great Star Wars writers right now. It's so fantastic. I'll even say James Luceno, who's done a lot of, he's done a little bit of, I don't know if he's done any actually canon, but in Legends, I mean, James Luceno wrote Kenobi. You should read Kenobi. I think before it drops, definitely, like, I don't know if there's a good audiobook version of it, but
there is.
Is there?
I mean, a good audiobook, I don't know, but it is on audiobook.
Here's one thing with that is, like, you read it and you don't need to think about it being Legends or not. It feels right. It was written after episode 3 came out, while Clone Wars was beginning its productions.
And there's also parallels that happen in the comics
from
that do sort of carry over from that. And
I wouldn't be surprised as well if they start pulling from that. Like, I really believe that crate dragon scene in Mandalorian was pulled from Kenobi. There was a very similar scene to that in Kenobi, which is pretty dope. So, yeah, man. I mean, we could talk forever about that book. One thing that I'm really kind of excited about from that book was just kind of a deeper appreciation for Dooku itself as a character. Next time I watch Clone Wars, next time I watch Attack of the Clones, even the beginning of episode 3, I'll actually be sad when Anakin takes him down now. Like, I think I'll actually, and like, Christopher Lee is Christopher Lee, right? I mean, Christopher Lee was fantastic as Sauron. He was fantastic in what is that really terrible movie that he did? Oh, he did lots of them. I can't think of the name of it on the top of my head. Like, if you look at Christopher Lee's movie credits, it's kind of ridiculous. But his Dooku, like, when he's got Obi-Wan in the suspension and he's talking with him, you don't feel like he's a bad guy at all. Like, you feel like he's an old friend that, like, I mean, he literally is the master of Obi-Wan's master. That's family. They're brothers. You know, in essence, you could look at him as almost like a pseudo father, grandfather in a way, right? And so that scene has this deeper meaning for me. And it just kind of like Ahsoka, the book Ahsoka, you know, like, we got Ahsoka's such an interesting character because we got her as this kid that no one liked in Clone Wars, right? She was, what do you mean Anakin had an apprentice? Whatever. Like, great character, like how they treated her with the whole Barriss Offee storyline and all that. Like, it really well done. Ashley Eckstein, who voices her, like, is a personification of Ahsoka. Like, don't get me wrong. I love seeing the live action. You know, it's fantastic seeing Ahsoka as so much more. Like, I've said from the beginning of this podcast that Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character. Seeing her have such an importance to the storyline makes me very happy. But it wasn't until I read Ahsoka that I really fell in love with that character. It was interesting, and like books are so interesting in that way. Like I've always, as soon as I get moved into my place, I can't wait to take a picture of all of my Star Wars and Star Trek books. I can't wait to have Matt over just so we can look at them. I have technical manuals. I've got, you name it. Books are everything. Yeah. And like these days, like I'm reading Legends, and the EU is what we called it back in the day, the expanded universe. And it was always so fantastical, and you always had to take it with a grain of salt, and you always had to kind of like, okay, you know, like
it's like you finish a book and like, oh man, that was great. It's a shame we can't entirely call that canon.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but these days now you pick up this book, and like with Dooku, we got the story that we always wanted out of him.
Yeah.
Right. And now I have this fascination and this appreciation for this character, and I really kind of want to watch the Clone Wars again, just to catch those episodes with him in it. Like it, so well done.
Yeah.
I can't speak enough for how good the book was, and I think not reading it and actually listening to it gave me a much deeper appreciation for it, just because it was so well done. It really was. Yeah. There's so much. Yeah. The biggest thing that I kind of pulled from it, I guess, big picture story wise, it made me appreciate the character Dooku, right? It gave some context as to why Sifo-Dyas did what he did to create the clones. I wonder, like, the Force works in mysterious ways, right? And so, you know, we've seen the visions that, you know, like in the sequel trilogy, Palpatine straight said that he was putting those visions in Rey and Kylo's head, so that they were talking to each other. Right. He was the one who put them there. Anakin's visions that he had in the prequel trilogy were put there by Sidious to make him Vader, right? In the end, like that was the whole point of that: create doubt, create fear, create all of those things that feed the dark side, right? He did all of those things. Was Sifo-Dyas's visions a product of the dark side, or was it the Force saying, "Hey, pay attention"?
See, that's the thing, is that's a very, very good question, because I think there may be some overlap on both. Because I mean,
this is during the time when Pelagius was the Dark Lord, and he was very much into that sort of manipulation.
I think a lot of it, especially in the beginning, I think would be product of the Force.
Right.
I think after doesn't Dooku meet Palpatine?
Yes, he does. Briefly. It was actually Rael who brought Palpatine in, and it was very much we'll pay attention to your career with great interest. Yeah, yes. I mean, it was very much the same sort of vibe. And so,
I think at that point, I don't remember where that falls in the book, whether that is after the I think that would be after the planet incident with the Bacta.
That is after, yes.
And I think that's
a great part of that story too.
Yes, very important.
Very important.
When you read the High Republic, remember the Bacta planet.
Okay.
And what happened on the Bacta planet, and what led up, and why things happened that way.
Dope.
Because
that takes that. Oh,
that is,
dope.
Yeah.
Dope. Okay.
Because I think that Palpatine, hearing of this vision that Sifo-Dyas had, goes, I can manipulate that. If he's sensitive to the Force and visions, then I'll use the dark side to manipulate and twist actual visions,
right,
to the way I want them to be interpreted, possibly be interpreted. And because you have that connection with Dooku and Palpatine, and also dabbling in the dark side, and Sci-fi DS being vulnerable to that, where because he's not plagued with Force visions in the beginning.
No, he's not. It wasn't until after Dooku touched the statue of the what is the
War Beast?
Yeah, the War Beast. Exactly. That's a great way of putting it. It wasn't until after that, like it was like something tripped, like when the dark side was awoken, when the War Beast itself was awoken. I wonder if there's a parallel there.
I think it was specifically the incident in the archive, the Bogan collection.
Oh yeah, well that's exactly it. Yeah, which is a pretty awesome reference to Jedi, or was it Jedi Fallen Order?
Right.
The planet Bogan, which
also the name of the dark side in Beta.
Yeah.
So
yeah, really interesting. Just the ties, those loose little ties. Like I that question that I thought a lot about that. You know, like were those eventually being expanded upon? Because by the time that we last see Sci-fi DS, he's crazy. Yeah, he's a mess. Yeah. He's an absolute mess. Like Lynn Castana can't control him. She can barely, like, she's his caretaker at this point, very much his mom.
Yeah.
And I found that she had like the very different sort of master apprentice. It was much more of a mom and son sort of thing, even with Dooku. I love Dooku and her and Castana's relationship. Yeah. I thought that was a fantastic one of just pure trust. Like, period. Just pure, unevolved, unequivocal trust.
I mean, when you accuse a master of being a Sith Lord when you're a Padawan, you kind of get past a little bit. Like, you've already had that giant awkward phase of your relationship, so now you can move on from that.
Move on, exactly. But yes, I mean, it really is interesting, and once again, like, they did such a great job of not like drawing those connections. Now, the one thing that I will say is this book was the first book to really take Plagius and shove it into Legends.
Yes.
This is the first one to really take that book, because I've always kind of taken Plagius because of its connection to episode 1. Like, I think it was James Luceno actually wrote the novelization for episode 1, and he wrote Plagius. Yeah. They were tied together. And so the novelization for all of the episodes are to be considered not canon, right? Even though you can kind of take, like, even the Last Jedi novelization with a bit of a grain of salt. I do look at the Last Jedi's novelization as like one of the best movie adaptations to a book. It actually improved. Have you read it?
I have not.
You should. It actually improved the movie. Like, the second time I watched it after reading the book, I was like, oh.
I mean, yeah, also, I think Time has also done that.
Time has done a magnificent job, not for The Rise of Skywalker, but for The Last Jedi.
That's going to take a lot
That's going to take a very long time. But this was the first book to really take Plagius and just dump on it. And that's fine.
This is...
I want a canon version of Darth Plagius. I think we will get that.
We will. I think, we will absolutely eventually get that.
We have to, and I hope that we still get it while Ian McDiarmid's still alive, because I would love to have him narrate his own story.
Yes.
I mean,
it's on the same level as you want Thrawn books voiced
by the same
voice actor. Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah. Thrawn, the Thrawn books are narrated by him.
So, but to hear, like, real quick, random Bad Batch, why back to the beginning of this episode, the Saw Gerrera reference, by the way, dope as fuck.
Yes,
sorry, just there was a brief cut scene with Saw, a very much younger Saw.
You get the mix between what you see in Clone Wars
and what you see in
Rogue One.
Well, actually in Rebels.
Well,
Rogue One.
Rebels, Rogue One.
Yeah, I mean, the difference between Rebels and Rogue One, though, I mean,
is like 1 year,
and he goes downhill
very fast. Very fast.
What happened? But yes, I mean, this is the first one, like I said, that really just kind of shut that down, and I'm fine with that.
No, I mean, and also, like,
I would want them to do that. I want, like, the fact that, like, when I say Kenobi
Yes.
is very close to what I would consider canon, the fact that the Kenobi show, the casting, by the way, is fantastic.
Yeah.
The fact that we didn't even mention
didn't
that with
talk about
Nose.
that, yeah, the
The
casting.
fact that it's the same actors for Owen and Beru,
Mm-hmm.
as in the episode 3.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
look, the same years have affected everyone.
what, it's been 20 years.
We all passed
yeah.
those years.
Yeah.
And now we're at the point where it's been 20 years
Yeah.
since episode 3, and now we are properly
aged.
Like,
You don't have to do that crazy aging and de-aging.
No.
And this
which
is
is
so dope.
wild. Like,
I'm just gonna pause real quick and say, the fact that Star Wars has been around since 1977, and the fact that Star Trek has been around since 1966, allows for this.
Yeah.
It allows for these huge, just
like connections,
huge connections, and
casting follow-throughs.
yeah, I'm really, we may be going, this is a tangent for sure, but kind of like I thought that the same actor who portrayed Picard, reference here, Maddox in
Mhm.
Picard, I thought it was the same actor who portrayed it in season 2 of the Next Gen. It wasn't. The dude who played, I could be wrong about this, but I believe he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who played Maddox in season 2 is actually dead. But the person they got to portray Maddox in Picard, almost a dead ringer for him, which is pretty dope. But yeah, there's just the depth of, like, once again, like, Saw Gerrera, low key one of the most widely used characters in all of Star Wars history. Like, literally Clone Wars, Rebels, movies, video games, another show. Like, I mean, Clone Wars, Rebel, all the animated. He wasn't in Resistance, but he
was also dead.
True. I also haven't watched Resistance, and I don't think I will.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of, he's one of those widely used characters, and, like, such a great character to use.
A character who gets a lot more screen time than you think he
should ever have gotten,
yeah.
based off of, like, a random Clone Wars episode.
Yeah,
one episode.
I think it was the 2-parter, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the Ryloth episodes. Yeah. No, wasn't it Ryloth?
No,
it was him and his sister,
Yes.
and I can't think of the episode.
But it was 2 episodes.
It was a 2-episoder. Yeah, it might have actually been a 3-parter.
But I mean, that's
like just a random one-off character.
And then you go like, okay, yeah, we'll put him in his and put him in that.
Not only, but then you're gonna have
It's
Forrest
nuts.
Whitaker not only, like, be his model for the character, but then he also voices the character because it's his character, and he doesn't want anybody else to do it, including voicing it in the cartoons.
Yeah.
Like, what? Another random fact.
Yeah.
Matt's been listening to the I Am C-3PO. Is
Yes,
that what it is?
yes.
Very much in the I Am Spock, I Am Not Spock vein. You should read those books, by the way.
Yeah,
They're really good.
That's one of the other ones I'm planning on watching is the documentary.
Yeah. But one of the things that found out was that Anthony Daniels, like, every time, like, he is such a horror for his own character that, like...
That is not the description I would...
He is a horror for his own character.
He is very protective and loves his character.
Yes, he
takes
does.
everything with C-3PO very personally.
Very personally.
I did not know about the C-3PO plane. That was hilarious.
That is hilarious. Great book. Once again, audiobook, and he narrates it, and he is a master. Like, his George Lucas is almost spot on. Just the quick, like,
Sure.
Just the way he says just the quick little words and all that. But Anthony Daniels voiced C-3PO in all of the Clone Wars and Rebels and every single thing. Like, it's kind of like Lando. Billy D. Williams. So what you guys may have missed and all of that, because we edited that out, was us really struggling with something stupid. So Lando, Billy D. Williams, he's voiced all of his characters as well.
Yes.
And
almost,
except for the whole Danny Glover part of it. But
also his middle name is Balthazar.
Lando Balthazar Calrissian.
Yes.
Dope. That is one of the most dope fucking names outside of like Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb.
I just
such like it's too good of a name.
It's
for that
too
character.
good. It's
like,
almost too
holy crap. Like,
too great of a name.
Like you say Salacious Crumb.
Yeah.
And that is a word you can taste.
You absolutely. Wow. You can taste that.
You can.
And all I think of is like,
it is so like that. I hated that character as a kid.
Me too.
Because holy crap, that laugh
Mm-hmm.
was so just
ridiculous.
In your face.
It was, yeah. Yeah. Wow, we just really just
Dude,
went on.
Yeah, we just went off.
We didn't. Yeah, we do that often. So, but yes, I mean, I'm glad that I finally got around to it. I for all you guys out there who've listened to me talk about, well, I'm gonna get to it next week. I got to it, and very much glad that I did. I'm really regretting not getting into it sooner. Really am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it's got me back into it. I still have a couple of I still prefer physical media. I still like to sit down and read books, but if the production value on some of these are going to be like this going forward, you're 100% certain. Like, I was looking forward to getting in my car and driving an hour each way to work. Like, what? Yeah. I drive 500 miles each week minimum for my commute. And I was excited about it for the entire week that I was doing it.
That's the other thing is I got through Dooku last time so quickly was because I was building furniture.
Right.
And I'm putting this on. This is my second listen through.
Yeah.
It's I could just do this and just take notes.
It's so good. So good. So I think you said you're going to be playing some clips.
I'm going to play some clips just in case that it sparks
something comes up. Okay.
So.
The CIS was right. Like we said at the beginning of this episode, the Republic was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it very interesting that there is, at least with those three, Sifo Dyas, Lynn Kistana, and Dooku himself, that they're all feeling that something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this general sense of questioning of the motives, and 100% should be questioning.
The principles, not motives. You're right. The principles, the morals, really what it comes down to is the moral fabric of the Jedi has shifted, and it's almost like they're aimless. The definition has changed.
Correct. Yeah, very well put. But I get the sense, especially from here to when we see them in, the prequels, it's like they're listless. It's like they're just going about. They're going through the motions, and they're not doing anything else. They're not
looking outside.
They're looking inwards. And who is it that says that the Jedi spent their entire time looking inwards? Who was it that said that? I can't remember.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Yoda.
I mean, I'm thinking it's from one of the cartoons, but. Mm-hmm. They basically spent the entire time looking inwards, and yeah, you're right. It's 100%. They weren't looking out. There was no progress happening. When you're telling me that the Jedi had all these special ships mm-hmm. that you plug your lightsaber in, and it's like a key fob that operates this thing, and your guns are the same color as your lightsaber, and dope.
Yeah.
But why that stop?
Yeah.
Once again. What happened? I know it's I agree with you. It has to be a sequence of events. It can't just be this one change, mm-hmm. right? It can't be, because at that point, Yoda's not Grandmaster. I still kind of go back to Yoda as kind of being a bit of a problem. I understand why he was Grandmaster. I think that Windu should have been Grandmaster by the time of the prequels.
Probably.
But even then, would have changed, because in the end,
you're still in the same
position, being manipulated by the Sith,
mm-hmm.
right? And so, I mean, that's the thing, you can say about Jedi hubris and looking inwards versus outwards. All of that
they thought they had the definition of what their purpose in the galaxy was,
because they thought that the Sith had been wiped out for 1,000 years.
Things were at peace.
Yeah. For a very long time.
Yeah.
And so they didn't need to challenge themselves.
Apparently a very long time is 100 years.
Apparently. Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. Like, I mean,
that's only like for some species not even a generation.
No, for sure. I mean, for Yoda that's nothing. But like for us, 100 years
Padawan for 100 years.
I know, God. Like knowing what we know about
he was a youngling for 100 years. Like
yeah, well, they're basically saying that like what you get from Grogu is he's like the equivalent of 5.
5, yeah.
Right.
It's essentially a 0 added to the end.
Yeah, basically you get like 1 year for every 10.
Yeah.
I guess 1 year for every 10.
Yeah.
You know, out of that. And so yeah, he's only 5, and so it makes total sense. But it's kind of like, you know, you look at, I guess, a good social commentary for that would be the boomers these days.
Yeah.
I not to get all political and shit.
No, but I mean,
but when you think about it,
pretty accurate.
The Jedi Council is full of boomers, stuck in their ways, staunchy. I really like that analogy, by the way. Yeah, that's really good.
One other thing that
impacts
nothing on the High Republic, but story. There is one Jedi Master who is on the council other than Yoda that we recognize.
Oh, really?
Yes. He only makes one appearance.
Okay.
In The Phantom Menace.
Yaddle?
No. It's Yarl Poof.
Yarl Poof.
The giant, long, skinny neck guy.
Oh! Yeah, I remember that. Interesting. He almost looked... Okay, yeah. Okay, I can see it.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, he's in the High Republic.
He's in the High
Just
Republic.
for a second.
I think he's name dropped twice in the High Republic.
That's hilarious.
That he's on the council, yeah.
He's on the council then, and he's on the council then. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, and that's the thing, like, I mean, kind of like using the boomer reference, you know, I mean, you can almost look at Dooku, Sci-fi, and Kistana as being millennials challenging the system, and unfortunately there just wasn't
system didn't budge.
There wasn't enough voice.
There was and the budge. I mean,
it was impossible to budge that. That was the Jedi were on a crash course.
Yes.
With Order 66.
Yes.
And had been for 1,000 years. And I just find it very interesting that Sifo and Lin see it. They see it and they taste it and they feel it and they know it. And they're trying to tell everyone about it, and they're just like, that's nice.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, man, I can say this, you know, to kind of wrap it up, to answer your question, the first one, what did I think? It gave me such an appreciation for the character. It gave me an appreciation for the prequels a little bit more. You know, we never got that treatment in the beginning, right? I mean, obviously, storytelling is going to be storytelling, and they're going to fill in holes.
Right.
But this little bit of, if this book had come out when Clone Wars was a TV show and it was active on TV, it'd have been mind blowing.
Yeah,
it would have made every time Dooku popped up on screen, I just like, oh my God, it's Dooku! Yeah. Yes, you know, bring more. And so, I think tonight when I go home, I've got an hour drive ahead of me. Tonight when I get home, I think I'm gonna have to watch a Dooku episode of Clone Wars tonight. I know the episode I think I'm gonna watch. It's the one where it actually I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's the one where it's entirely about him. Like there's an entire episode about Dooku, and Grievous I think is a little bit in that episode too. So I think I'm gonna have to watch that, and I think Attack of the Clones should be. It's time to.
That's the one of the ones that have been out for a while that I've returned to the least.
Yeah, you know, I keep going back
mostly because of Anakin.
Yeah, I mean it for sure. Yeah, he's really rapey in that.
Super creepy.
He's just like, a creep.
That's just like a big no.
You've grown. Dude. Just don't say things like that ever. That is cringeworthy. So yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch a little bit of that, and then we're probably gonna talk more Dooku as we do the review. I wouldn't be surprised if the next time, like, we're probably gonna record a couple more times before we got some stuff to talk about for sure. But when we do the review of High Republic for me on my end, we'll definitely talk some more Dooku. And one of the things I kind of want to do now is like, kind of like the question I asked, like those Force visions, like where they come from. I want to start like pulling as we start digging deeper into the deep canon, which is what I kind of consider books to be, as like deep, heavy canon. We start pulling from there and start really digging some questions, because all these books are now like starting to really get deep and connected together, and all part of that huge Star Wars world, which is just getting gigantic.
Like for me, like again, like what you said, just the fleshing out of Dooku, the seeing how right that Dooku was on so many things, on the hypocrisy of the Jedi Council, but also seeing those moments where that worry you. That's like, oh, he is going. Those dark side turns. Yeah, where you go, oh man, like you are a good guy. Yeah, you. There is, in no definition, are you a bad guy. You are right.
He's probably the closest to a gray Jedi you get.
And that's the thing, is I think I've said this already, that I think Dooku would have thrived in the High Republic. Yeah. And that I think Dooku is the opposite side of the coin. So Dooku Ahsoka and Dooku being opposite sides of the same coin, being just slightly off of
off center.
Slightly off gray. Ahsoka being
more on the light side, where he's slightly in the dark. That is a really interesting comparison, and I'm gonna look a little bit more into that as well, because you start to see the storyline that Star Wars is starting to tell. The characters are more gray. It's less cut and dry, good and bad. We need that. We need light side, dark side. No. Humanity is not that.
And also, like, if anything, like, eventually we will get that. Yeah. When Star Wars decides to return to post the sequel trilogy. Yeah. We will return to that at some point.
We will. Yeah.
Where we will have just Force users out in organized groups. Yeah. Possibly going in a big collection, but more loose.
They called them wayfinders, right?
Yeah, yes, you are referring to a path a Jedi could select.
Got it. Yeah, you're right.
In the High Republic. Yeah. Where there's like, I want to step away and find my place in the galaxy apart from the Order. Yeah. While still being a Jedi, but, finding yourself.
I just had a weird thought. A Section 31 type show in the Jedi Order. Set in the prequel era. And you got a group of gray Jedi rolling around doing things to the Republic that are off books.
You're looking at like the Section 31, instead of being ultra, is being more loose.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That'd be interesting. Sorry, that was a random tangent.
That would be interesting. Of like, just following. Like, I could see
Jedi. I could see agents.
I could see I could see a High Republic. Novel following 3 Wayfinders that then ties into the big crisis that happens. I don't see that they would be working. I'm gonna stop myself. Yeah. So that you can experience the High Republic as much as you can. Right. But yeah, I think that would be interesting, is following Jedi who are apart from the Order. That'd be very cool.
That would be really cool.
Cool.
All right, we're going to keep talking. We're just going to keep going. We better end this here.
Yes, we should.
Well, we want to thank you guys for listening. As a kind of a nice little Dooku review and a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Please leave comments down below. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and SoundCloud. All of the descriptions are in the links below.
Thank you guys for listening. For light and life.
For light and life.